Hi everybody, Mike from the Digital Media Lab here today to show you how to do Lab Assignment 9, Part 2 for the DIGM 3353 class. I'm going to be working inside of PowerPoint. This assignment could be done in multiple different applications if you so prefer, but I think PowerPoint is, if you're using the Office suite, PowerPoint is going to be your best option. Let's get started. The very first step in this exercise, and I recommend that you do this first, is find imagery for your website. It's definitely one of your requirements. I've got several images here. You don't need to find these many. I just happen to have just this kind of amount in my folder already, so I decided to go ahead and use them. I'm going to be creating a website for the University of Houston Technology, but your site will be under the same brand and company that you created your logo under. So I'll be using the University of Houston colors and the logo, but you'll be using the colors and logo from your assignment. Also, please be aware, do not use any templates inside of PowerPoint. Also, do not copy me precisely. Let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerPoint, and we're going to start a new document. And if you've already started your new document, this next step is going to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to go to File, Page Setup, File, Page Setup, and I'm going to change the width and height of my document. Now, this could cause some issues if you already have things on the slide, but we need a lot larger area to work with than we currently have. So I'm going to change the width to 12 inches and the height to 15 inches. Keep in mind that a website can scroll quite a lot, so there's really no reason to have, there's no reason you couldn't have more height than this if you wanted. We're going to kind of stop it somewhere around 15 inches, so that'll work for us, but you can have more. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to come up with a dialog box, although it didn't for me. I thought it would. It may ask you to fix the document. Make sure you do not click Fix. I know that it's actually probably highlighted it in blue, but don't click Fix. Just click OK. If you click Fix, it will take your images, and let me grab an image and drag it into the document. It will take your images and squish them. And while I'm on this subject, do not do this to your images. I'll press Command Z or Control Z on your PC in order to undo that a few times. Make sure that you're always grabbing from these bottom left corners and sizing proportionally. Do not try and force your images to fit by squishing them to any degree. You can't do it. It just makes them look bad no matter what. If you've already done that, you'll have to re-drag the image in there in order for it to maintain correct proportions. I'll go ahead and delete that, and let's delete the existing materials in here. Every website at the top left has a logo, so let's grab the U of H logo and drag it in there. It's a little large. I think I can crop it inside of here by going to Format Picture, Crop, and changing these values down a bit. And we'll just resize it this way. Let's see, I think there's a crop tool actually. Yeah, let's do it this way. So inside of this Format Picture tab, I click the crop tool and it'll crop it down like so. Checking the crop tool to do that. Hopefully your logos won't have that issue. Maybe a little bit smaller. Now the one thing that I do is I want to leave a little bit of space to the left and right hand side. So whenever we look at a web page, we notice that the content area is kind of in its own margin areas. So we're going to assume that if we're going to leave a little bit of white area with the assumption that as the browser window expands and contracts that area might become larger and smaller, we just need to leave a little bit. So what we need to do is create a rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle of just about any size because I'm going to change its format and size here. I'll give it a fill of none and a line of black. And let's set we're really concerned with the width. The width of a website is usually, and I think 10 inches is going to be a good value. Now I'm going to go to Align and select Align Center in order to make sure it is centered. There we go. I'll go ahead and drag it to the very top. Not so much concerned with the top and bottom margin. I'll drag it all the way down to the bottom. So now I kind of have a block where my website is going to fall into. Of course, that line is not actually going to appear on the final web page. So we have our logo here. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. And let's make sure our zoom level is at a good zoom level. That's pretty good. So the next thing in our website is we need to have a menu. So I'll start to create my menu. My colors don't have to be exact for this website. If I was doing this professionally, I would use Cougar Red for this menu, but in this case, just getting it to a nice red will probably work just fine. It does have a drop shadow by default applied to it, so I'm going to go to Shadow, Drop Shadow, and No Shadow. And there I have a pretty decent red. We can see it's actually a little bit different from my Cougar Red, but that's okay. Maybe this red will be a little better. No, try a different red. Of course, you'll be working with whatever colors you're working within. And look at other websites and see if they do their menus any differently. They might expand. You can't expand this red to continue off into the margins. That's okay in Webdesign. We can see that that happens here on the College of Technology site, so that would be okay to do. The next thing that I need to do is create some text for my menu. And let's see, I need to create some text boxes. So I'll click and drag a small text box here. And my text is pretty large. Probably going to want to select something around 16 maybe. Yeah, I think that's going to work. And let's see what would be our first menu item for our website. Now you do need to consider these menu items for unique to your own site. I'll go ahead and do some of the menu options I talked about in class. And of course, I think I would like I think the text should be a white color for this. Okay, good. I've got my first menu item. You should have, 3 or 4 menu items along here. One neat trick is to hold down the Alt Option key, or that is to say the Option key on Mac, the Alt key on PC, and to simply click and drag that menu item out like this, duplicating it. And we can duplicate it again, and maybe a 4th time if we had that many options. Have at least 3 of unique menu items on there. And I'll go ahead and double click this one and say, say current students. That menu item got a little bit crunched there. We'll fix that in a second. And my last option, I might do courses. So I'll go ahead and make a little bit of room for that. Now they're not quite spaced evenly. Spacing is really important in web design. So I'll shift click all of my menu items, and then I'm simply going to go to Align and Distribute horizontally, which will space them out all properly. That's pretty good. Now the tiny minute details of web design, I'm not so concerned. You'll notice that there are little triangles and flyout menus with the with the technology site. You don't need to create that level of detail. Let's just get the basic menu items. I'd like to definitely see what those menu items are, so consider good practices with those. Another thing that we need to consider that I probably should have considered from the very beginning instead of waiting till now is I'm going to go ahead and shift click all of those options, and I need to select a typeface appropriate for this one. Now menus tend to be sans serif, so I will try Century Gothic. That of course changed my layout a little bit, so I'll expand that. expand that, and now of course I need to shift click all of these once again and go to arrange, oh excuse me, not arrange, format, align, distribute vertically, and that centers all of our items in there. It's not perfect, but that's close enough for this assignment. The next thing I need to do is, typically there is a large banner image on a website. So I'm going to go to my images and select a nice banner image for that. I like this image right here. And obviously I'm going to need to shrink it down. I may need to crop it. So I will grab my crop tool from the Format Picture tab and crop this photo as necessary, unchecking the crop in order to commit that change. And then some simple resizing. And that should kind of go underneath our menu. You could also leave some space. There are a lot of different little choices in terms of spacing and things like that. It's up to you how this banner image goes on here. You don't even necessarily have to have a banner image, but pretty standard practice. The next thing we need to do is create a content area. So kind of think of it in terms of a block sort of occurring here. I definitely would like to see a few blocks of content. You don't actually have to create much of this content, although I do want to see the headings. So let's start by creating a text box. And we need to create, remember, if you recall, we have our H1 tags. If you recall, those are, I'll type them out here. Those are H1 or H1 through H3, or H. And if we were doing code, that's what this would look like. Of course, we're not doing code, so we don't need to worry about that. However, we do need to kind of define what that heading 1 looks like. So I need to create that heading 1. So I'm going to create, say, a content block here, kind of similar to like one of these areas in here. Maybe not this small. I'm going to do it I'm only going to do 2 columns instead of 4 columns. So I'm just going to have one content block kind of spanning across these two. But I need to consider the same things. Like for example, this one is probably a heading 1, and the heading 1 has an image associated with it along with paragraph text. And we're actually going to go one step further and create a subheading. So the very first thing I need to do, and you do actually need to type in actual content for your heading. Now I'm not going to require that you type out the paragraphs. I'll show you in a second how to do that, but we do need to do that. So let's come up with the content for that. I would think what's new in DIGM, which that's how we abbreviate digital media. So what's new in DIGM will be my title. And we can work with lots of colors and things like that, but be careful not to pick overly saturated colors in Webdesign. And let's select a typeface. We don't want to have too many typefaces. Remember our rules with typefaces, so we don't want to create a new typeface every single time. So we use Century Gothic up there. I think I will go back to Century Gothic in this case. Make sure you're selecting fonts that are more relevant to your website and brand. And Century Gothic is here. Yes, I think I might choose a bold version of that. Also selecting, there's an option for all caps. Yes, uppercase. So I might change those to all uppercase to kind of give it a nice bold look. It might be a little large or a little small, so depending on what you think is needed in terms of size. Try not to change your zoom levels too much, but maybe that's pretty good. It should be a little bit bigger than our menu about the same size as our menu options maybe. There's no real relationship there, but the next thing I need to do is go ahead and create a subheading. Now you don't really necessarily need to create the text for the subheading, but you can just say subheading. Or actually, you know what I would prefer is you call this heading 2, because those would be our H2 tags. And now we need to select a typeface and a look for that. So I will, let's go back to just regular Century Gothic without bolding it. There we go. And definitely going to lower the size quite a bit. And we might select a different color. In this case, I'm going to select my fill color for my text and maybe select a nice dark gray, maybe in this range, so that we know that that copy is part of our heading 2. Underneath that, it would be a good idea, although not required, for you to have an image. I'll go ahead and grab one of my images. So here's we have Phil looking rather goofy. Of course, it's gigantic. I'll need to shrink it down by grabbing one of those corners. And this image could go above the heading or below the heading. It's up to you. Whatever you think is necessary for your website. And we might align these guys in a minute. The next thing I need to do is come up with some body copy. Let's work through that. I have a neat trick to create some dummy text for that option, but we definitely need to create some. I'm definitely going to want a smaller size, so maybe 14. Here we go. And we can generate some text that is essentially random, but allows us to copy and paste it into PowerPoint here. There we go. We don't need that much text. There we go. Just a little bit of explanation going on there. And of course, we've generated some just random text, and I'll put this link in the comment section below, so that you can just simply click it without having to search through it. And we have one of our content areas. I'm going to go ahead and shift click all of my elements and go to Format, Align, and select Align Center. Oops, you know what? I selected the wrong one. I want to go to Align, Align Left. That's better. So now I have a little bit of a content block. I might change some settings here. I'm not quite sure if I liked it aligning like that. There we go. So now I have a content block created. And you will need to create at least 2 of these content blocks. It is okay to put these side by side. And you'll need to create another section with another image. Now I've gone ahead and just held down the Alt key just now, the Alt Option key, and I duplicated that because it's going to be a lot easier for me to just duplicate that. But I do need to change the content somewhat. So I might have another content area in my technology. Let's see, I might do like our wonderful students, because you guys are awesome. I'll go ahead and, of course, make that look like my other heading by selecting this uppercase option. There we go. The last and final thing we need on our website, and we're going to have some blank space here at the bottom. That's okay. It's not really important. Should be pretty obvious. And I need to change my color. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a footer and selecting no shadow. I'm creating the footer for my web page. Now footers can be large, they can be small, all different sizes. I would definitely refer to all different kinds of websites for how they handle these ideas. One thing I almost forgot, and that is you need to display what a link looks like. So I will go to, and this is the final requirement. Now as far as the footer goes, I'm sorry I skipped over there for a second. As far as the footer goes, footers usually contain certain amounts of content, but I think it's a little bit beyond the scope of this class to actually kind of generate all of this content and find an extra logo, but you're welcome to go as far with that as you want. If you think that, I don't know, for me, I might place this interlocking UH logo. It's going to look a little weird because it has a white background, but always grabbing by the corners. And you could also expand this to the very edge of the document, kind of expanding it in the similar way that the College of Technology site does. See how this color kind of extends. And look at other websites. Borrow from their ideas. Maybe not their exact colors and their brand ideas, but other websites can definitely be good examples of different ways of doing footers, different ideas and things like that. So look into other websites and see how they deal with it, and kind of recreate some of their ideas. The next thing I need to do, I noticed I forgot to change Phil's photo here, so I'm going to delete that photo and select a different photo. And here's kind of a photo of students I have, or professor working with students. And I'll drop that in just like so. So now I have two different content areas with two different subheadings. And I might just align that in there just right. There we go. The next thing I need to do, so we have two content areas, our logo, a menu, and some kind of banner image. I kind of a little bit optional there. But the next thing we need to do, and the final thing, is I need to see exactly what your links are going to look like. Remember, links are, hyperlinks are a small bit of text. So I'll just call this link or hyperlink if you prefer. And I'll go ahead and leave that at the default font. Make sure that your body, that your typefaces make sense with one another. So remember good typeface selections when selecting your typefaces. For me, Calibri, which is the default font, and Century Gothic, I think that they work together pretty well. Although I might want to select a serif typeface for body copy. Now that I think about it, I think maybe Adobe Garamond. Let's try that. And I might have to go through several different experimentations. I'm probably not going to get it the first try. Yeah, it looks pretty good with that one. So I'll go ahead and change this one as well. Adobe Garamond. And there we go. And I might need to get this photo to look the same size. Consistency is really important in web design. So getting these photos the same size and having consistent margins and paddings and things like that are really important. I do need to display at least what a link will look like. So links are usually going to happen within the copy, so I'm going to select a red color for my links, because that's the way I want my links to work. And I might also go ahead and underline it so that it's pretty obvious that that's what a link looks like. Oh, you know what? Because it's the body copy, I forgot to change it to Adobe Garamond Pro. So let's do that now. I link to Adobe Garamond Pro. There we go. And the same size, so 14. Yeah, we want it to be as though it were part of the copy. And you'll feel free to kind of inject these links or create more content as you feel necessary. I'm not expecting things to look perfect, but somewhere around this level, let's zoom out just a touch just to kind of see our work. And it's okay that we have some margin here at the bottom. I think it's pretty obvious that our footer kind of is the end of our website, but all of this looks pretty good. I think I would give this a pretty good grade. Remember, the grade is really determined on, I'm looking for elements, I'm looking for experimentation. I definitely want you to look at other websites and see how they deal with heading 2s, headings 1s, how their footer looks, how their links work. Try to stick to standard websites. There are some very, very creative websites out there that really kind of break these rules and do lots of fun stuff, but let's try to stick to the standard websites. Like the U of H websites are good examples. Other colleges are going to be good examples. websites that get a lot of traffic, things like that. These are all going to be pretty standardized websites. Yahoo.com, highly trafficked website, obviously. Bing, pretty Microsoft.com. Major companies are going to have these standards in place. And this level of detail is about what we're looking for. Of course, the last step I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and save off my PowerPoint so that if I need to make any changes, I can always do so. So I'll go ahead and save it to my desktop. And now you can save it as you would like, but I will go ahead and save it under my name. So Dawson M. Lab 9. And I'll click Save. And of course, I need to create the PowerPoint. I need to create the PDF in order to turn it in. File, Save As. And I will select PDF of the same name, saving it to my desktop, and I'll click Save. And voila, I will take the PDF and turn it into Blackboard. Thanks guys so much for watching. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. I know this assignment was a little bit haphazard, and I'm getting this video out a day late, just didn't have time, but I'll see you guys later.